Hey guys, my name is RGB. If you just connected to the server, welcome. If you're already a regular, welcome home. Today we're back for another redesign video of Yandere Simulator, but first of all, let's do a quick recap for the characters we have so far. Ayano Aishi is our protagonist. A perfectionist who suffers from a condition where she is apathetic and has difficulty connecting to her feelings. Recognizing she's different from other people, she feels lonely and isolated, which only deepens the wound in her chest. Senpai's sharp eye is the first to notice Ayano's situation. He connects with her and tries to show her support. Because of that recognition and understanding nobody has shown her before, she ends up falling for him. Taro, who is Senpai, is the new exchange student from Latin America who's recently gaining popularity by his charismatic demeanor and active presence in the school, where he creates relationships and bonds with the students in order to socially climb, to not become an outcast and ultimately end up alone. And so far, we have the profiles of Ozana, Rabaru, Asu, and Ozoro, who we worked together on the 2.5k special, and all of them got a somewhat intertwined lore. We also met Amai and Megami, both being probably the characters who changed the least, but still suffered very impactful tweaks. Both videos are very important, and all of the changes were made with a lot of thinking, so I would really appreciate if you check them out. You definitely won't regret. You thought I was gonna give a lot of insight on the changes we made? No, go watch their videos. But wait! Stop right there! Because this might as well be the last video of this saga. We had a like goal which was not hit in our previous video because I totally forgot to mention this in the video itself, so I'll look past that, but I'm saying it now. I'm putting a 2k like goal on this video to unlock more content for this saga, because all of the videos are getting many views, but there's a huge discrepancy with the likes, which makes me wonder if maybe the views are not tied to how much y'all like the content. Anyways, let's get right into it. Originally, I was going to start the video with Oka, but I decided that the order in which I'm presenting the rivals is really messy, so I decided that at least in this video I would follow their correct order. You quickly notice that Kizana is one of the characters that will have many changes on both her character design and her personality/backstory. As always, I've put her on our school uniform in order to fix the glaring issue I have with the uniforms Yandere dev chooses to use for the game. I decided to keep her personality somewhat the same, so she has some extra flare on her skirt in order to stand out from other students. It's a lot frillier and has layers unlike everyone else. I'm not sure you guys noticed in the last videos, but I've tried to make each character's skirt slightly different in the frills and length aspect of her purple tie-highs with the roses pattern, so I decided to keep them a simple shade of purple. Now into her physical appearance, which is like the hair, the eyes, and the skin color, I've kept the same color palette for her skin and hair because it's original enough and I don't have any issues with it. I've given her a mole to serve as a beauty mark and distinguish her from everyone else once she's dressed up for a specific play. I've also changed her hairstyle and bangs, as it's very easy to notice. I wanted to keep the curls in her hair but set her apart enough from Kokona in order for her not to look like a carbon copy of her. The hairstyle is a little bit inspired on geishas, but slightly modernized and tweaked for it not to look too traditional. I've also kept her signature roses because they're her main symbol, and it felt unnecessary to change that specific aspect of her character. The last thing is that I've decided that Kizana will be those kinds of characters that always have their eyes closed, except for when she's performing in a play. As her main color is purple, I felt like keeping a mysterious vibe about her will be very suitable and make her character overall more compelling. I always try to rush past the design explanation part because I feel like they're intuitive enough, or at least I hope the choices are intuitive enough without having to dive deeper into explanations, because it means I did a good job on the design. So anyways, let's get into her personality and backstory, which is definitely the coolest part of all the videos in my opinion. So first off, we need to keep it clear that Kizana is an opera singer. She loves acting and it is very tied together with opera, but her passion falls mainly into singing, and more specifically, opera singing. The theater club was created because of her passion for acting, but all of their previous plays have her operal skills incorporated into them. Through her life, Kizana has lived with her parents and her aunt. Her parents were simple business owners, deep into the corporate world, a place where she found no glamour and interest in. Differently from them, her aunt was a music teacher who specialized in vocals and early on, she noticed how Kizana had the necessary vocal capacity to sing opera very easily. Because of that, she started exposing Kizana to the world of art very early on. They bonded together over many different kinds of music and singers, went to musicals and different plays together, and Kizana learned how to develop passion and admiration towards art very early on in her life. She's someone very culturally rich, as you can speak to her about many different topics, be it specific painters' lives or cinema actors. She's an avid movie watcher and sometimes will engage in photography as a hobby. Because of being so in touch with the creative arts, she has a sense of superiority towards those who are less interested or less knowledgeable on that aspect. As expected, she usually treats people with disdain until they show genuine interest or at least shallow knowledge on the topics she's interested in. Otherwise, she will quickly label that person as inferior and move on with her life, always seeing them as a blank slate, not worthy of her time. If you do meet the required criteria to grab her attention, you manage to see that she isn't so bad, rather just someone who is very straightforward with her wants. And her wants are to share her passion of art. She isn't someone who believes she's better than everyone else though. She doesn't care about being the prettiest or the smartest, because the only competition she cares about is being the most vocally able. Nobody is better than her at singing, and if they show to be a threat, she will fight with blood, sweat and tears to prove she is more skilled. Aside from that, Kizana also shows an admiration towards geishas, claiming they are very beautiful and skilled women. Their discipline is incredible, and she has taken inspiration from them in her daily wardrobe and accessories. She doesn't believe she would want to become one, but she holds them in high regard. That admiration and attachment was mostly developed after her favorite opera play, Madame Butterfly. It happened to be the first play her aunt watched with her, and it's the one play Kizana is making plans for when she stumbles upon Senpai. Kizana knows how demanding opera singing is, and that it isn't as popular as she would like it to be. As you guessed, she is the only girl at school who is properly trained to perform her favorite play, so she had to get a little bit creative with that. Her main plan was to make an adaptation of it. She would be the only one opera singing, while the wannabe singers were going to play the second most important roles. It was less than ideal, but it is what she had to use. Senpai comes into the picture because Kizana really wanted a foreigner to play BF Pinkerton, and she thought Senpai would be the perfect role even if he wasn't from the USA himself. As you'd expect, she went to talk with him while displaying a really bad attitude, belittling him and taking him for an imbecile. And Senpai is many things, but not an idiot who just takes things easily. He was very quick to dismiss her completely and ignore her for weeks. They went on with this game for a few weeks. Kizana would try to convince Senpai, each time adjusting her attitude in order not to upset him, but a small commentary always messed it up and left a bad taste in his mouth. She was faced with the fact that not everyone would accept her antics just because she was, well, herself. Maybe she should just this once treat people equally and try to get to know him properly before judging him as less than her, because she really couldn't just miss the opportunity of casting him for this role, as she really wanted the play to be as she imagined. Feeling very defeated, Kizana went to meet Senpai with her tail between her legs and apologized to him begrudgingly. He ended up laughing at her face, which made her really embarrassed. And before she left angrily, Senpai stopped her and accepted her offer to play the role. He then went on to reveal that he made the research about the opera play she was interested in playing, and admitted he found quite odd how she was so fond of such tragic story. Nevertheless, he wasn't going to keep on ignoring her forever. Kizana was very touched and surprised with the fact that Senpai took a little bit of his time to study about her interest. They agreed that Senpai would take the role and practice with her for the next weeks, with the condition that Kizana would try to be nicer to people around her, or he would quit the role and leave her to fend off for herself. Senpai is a really good figure in Kizana's life because he takes no bullshit from anyone and is always calling her out on her behavior. Because of that, for the time they spend together, which eventually turns into something daily, she starts being nice to people, which eventually leads to her learning about others and finding out that maybe they aren't so bad as she thought. She starts to see value in other people's passions, be it in her favorite field or not. Kizana is a hard person to love, but Senpai has always been someone who likes challenges. If Ayano doesn't interfere, by the end of the play, something stronger between them might start to bloom. Our second victim today is Oka. I start this off by saying that she's mostly everyone's favorite, and I know the reason we like moody emo girls. They're cool and everyone loves them, so I see why there's a big liking towards Oka. Personally, I have a huge problem with the entire occult club and the way it's presented, because as much as I don't have extensive knowledge in Japanese culture, it feels very off-putting that a school would allow activities such as summoning demons and playing around the sharp knives. But before we develop deeper into that, let's get into the design changes. Shoulder up, Oka's fine. I enjoy the messy hair and eye bags, and the eye and color combination is not bad at all. As always, the uniform is not something I enjoy. I know there's an alternative outfit for Oka where she wears a black blazer with a purple turtleneck underneath, and I really like that one outfit, but we're not using it today. Another nitpick I have are the matching stockings and whatever the hell she's using on her arms. I find them very odd pieces of clothing that seem uncomfortable to wear because of their tightness, and personally, I see Oka as someone who would opt for looser and more comfortable outfits. So I decided to switch her school blazer for a smooth cardigan instead. She doesn't wear any tight clothing as she starts feeling itchy and restrained really fast, which makes her easily irritable. That's why her socks are also really short. Overall, her outfit is very simple and she lacks accessories because of personal preferences. She is completely devoted to her hobbies and interests, which leaves her little to no time to dedicate to looks. She also doesn't care enough about that. The biggest change I did on Oka is the fact that the concept of the occult club is entirely scrapped. As I've said before, I dislike the demonic and hell type of occult. I know that Japan is very strong on mythicism and on their folklore, so the entire hellish aspect that Yandere Simulator has felt very Western for a game which is set in Japan. This version of the occult club focuses on studying and compiling information about Japanese folklore and mythicism. They also dwell a little bit on religions such as Shinto and Buddhism. The occult club room changes its appearance to something that looks a lot more like a detective's room trying to solve a case. Each week, they pick a specific mythical creature or legend to work around, compiling any kind of information to discuss together, and meddling with dangerous legends. Some people usually stay away. Only a few members aside from Oka are bold enough to actually experiment by putting into practice rituals to summon or speak to the mythological creatures they study. It's important to mention that they don't do any of this inside the school. It's usually outside of school because I don't think the school would allow something like that. Oka is, since childhood, someone very shy and reserved. She doesn't have many friends and feels very awkward around people because she is very easily bothered by people's loud voices and fast-paced nature. She was raised by her grandmother after her parents died on a trip where the bridge they were passing by collapsed under their car. Devastated, Oka wasn't quite sure how to process and understand the situation. Her young head couldn't ever fully process that her parents were gone forever because of things that were completely out of their control. It just didn't seem fair at all. Her grandmother, an old lady who was a firm believer on mythicism and folklore, justified to Oka that what happened to her parents was caused by a mischievous Tengu who created a small earthquake leading to the bridge collapsing. Since then, she sees the world through the lenses of the occult, always connecting things that happened to her to something deeper. She believes that there's a reason behind everything that happens in the world and that these mythical creatures are behind it all. She's so devoted to her study because she wants to understand in order to feel more connected to her parents. When reading about legends, she feels safe and in her comfort zone. Because of that, many kids often saw her as a nuisance because of her constant association to the occult. She seemed too much like an old granny that tells stories, so she quickly learned to keep her thoughts to herself in order to avoid listening to ignorant people trying to deny everything she says. Luckily, as time went by, she eventually met many people who thought like her, which eventually led to the formation of the occult club. I see the occult club always doing rituals in order to keep the kami happy after they went on a huge studying spree after really bad yukais. My knowledge on Japanese culture is very shallow, so I apologize if I didn't go so deep into how their activities work or didn't specify many legends or myths. If you have more knowledge in that and you want to share or maybe develop more into this aspect, I'll be more than happy to read it in the comments. I've seen a lot of people like to develop more on the concepts I've created, and I really like to read your opinions and your creations, so feel free to create more stories on top of what I'm already doing. Now into Oka's school life itself. She's very comfortable with how things are going. She isn't the most interested in romance, but after recent events, she sees herself getting attached to Senpai. You see, at the right time, when it's the right time for Senpai to meet her, one of the occult club members abruptly quit after claiming that their most recent yokai study went very wrong, and it ended up hurting their family situation. As you would expect, the occult club isn't the most popular club at school because of its meddling with the spiritual world and potentially dangerous entities, so they have always been at the edge of disbanding. At the news, Oka is incredibly devastated and sees her world crumbling. Because of her passion for the occult that goes down to a very deep personal level, the disbanding of the club feels like losing one of her children. She sees herself completely miserable and on the verge of a breakdown until Senpai ends up bumping into her when she was already in a state of panic, crying non-stop. You see, Oka is someone who has a very hard time managing her emotions, and when they finally overflow, she finds herself on the start of a meltdown. At the time, Senpai was very surprised and scared at the situation. It was clear that Oka was very distraught, and he didn't feel like the best person to help, but dealing with Ozana's outburst after lost Mario Kart matches definitely helped him grow thicker skin and learn how to deal with people in sensitive moments. He dealt with her in a very calm manner, always keeping his voice low and giving her space to try to talk and calm down. He never judged her or got angry at her situation, which slowly made her anxiety fade as she noticed she wasn't going to get scolded or ashamed for letting her feelings run rampant. After long minutes, Oka had finally calmed down, and she found herself looking at the really kind, friendly face. She didn't know him, they'd never seen each other before, but she truly believed he was so bright. He was definitely a kami who appeared to her when she needed the most. He was definitely something divine. He completely convinced her of that by joining her club after she explained the situation she found herself in. Honestly, she knew she had fallen too easily, but how could someone not fall for a deity? After this happens, it's clear that the both of them will spend a lot of time together, especially because Oka will have a lot of things to teach Senpai, who is more than happy to listen and learn. Ayano might have a very hard time with separating these two, but Aryan-chan is not someone who gives up easily anyways. And that's our two most recent rivals! We pretty much finished the lineup of important rivals because I don't consider the problematic tree important to the story. And I think we have a pretty cohesive cast so far. I forgot to mention that close-up drawing of Kizana is her playing Madame Butterfly. She's not like, it's not, it's part of the play. Also, recently we reached 5.2k subs and I really wanted to thank everyone for the support. The channel's 1 year anniversary is in around 2 months and I want to reach 10k subs until then. Lastly, I want to thank our current channel members who are 2 people currently. Thank you so much. It's so very meaningful and important to me that you guys are supporters. I'll keep trying to improve the videos as much as I can, so I see you in the next one. Bye!